Good evening. This is John Samansky reporting in on 429 of the year 2020. And it's been an exciting 2020 so far. Uh, not, a, not necessarily in the greatest of ways, but as the Chinese say, may we live in interesting times, and we certainly are living in interesting times. It is interesting to note that that's actually a Chinese, it's not a good saying, it's actually considered a very bad thing to live in interesting times in the Chinese culture. So that's more of a curse than it is as we think of interesting in the American perspective. But nonetheless, even bad situations or interesting times such as we have right now can bring forth a lot of positive change and a lot of great things out there. I think some of the things and some of the trends going forward will be we have a current working at home trend. I don't think that's going to go away. I've made a lot of statements previous in the years past that I was very surprised that our overall logistical network was not more encompassing of the technologies we have to work from the ease of your home. This gives people, some people prefer it, some people don't, but it gives people the advantage to better manage their time, not have as much traffic and stress, and need less arduous infrastructure out there, which saves us on tax dollars, which saves us on energy and your carbon footprint. If you're someone who adheres to thinking that that has to do with the environment, I myself am a lot more concerned with the carbon monoxide that is put out by vehicles. That's a pollutant, whereas in my understanding, carbon dioxide is something that's good for trees to breathe. So let's just plant more trees is my theory on that, if there's an imbalance in the atmosphere. But that's a side issue. Nonetheless, with this, a recommendation I'm going to make, and again, this is not specific financial advice. Please contact your financial advisor for specific financial advice, but is to look at the stock of ADP. ADP works with both at-home people, at call centers, out in the field, as a timekeeping and HR resource. So I think that this along with other platforms such as Salesforce and things that allow people to access and work off of external third-party servers in a secure way will continue to go up in good or bad times. That said, something that's still going up are the prominent stocks. So we have Google reporting earnings today. Earnings forcing Google to go up. Alphabet as it is now, because they probably should be Alphabet, because many people aren't aware of the extensive amount of companies that Google itself owns and operates. So it is kind of a A through Z right now, and I think they'll only become more and more prominent as time goes on, because they're going to be part of the new infrastructure, part of the new Internet of Things. Whether that's a good or bad thing, that's the current trend. That said, I mean, we do have a lot to say about how we want to see the shaping of technology going forward. I think people need to be proactive in understanding what is going on with the technologies and, voice their opinions of how they see that these things should proceed into the future. Because if we don't act to shape them, they'll be shaped by people who either assume what is in our best interest or assume what we want, and or people who may have agendas that are not in conjunction with your own, because everyone has their own. Everyone's going to look out for their own first, so you need to make sure you stay informed and look out for yourself and understand what is going on. Say if you agree with it or don't agree with it, but at least know what's going on. That's one thing. I think people are becoming a lot more aware of that and aware of the infrastructure in place that we have with technology, and even understanding our own government, our own civics, our own infrastructure. Obviously, we've seen where our infrastructure might not have been up to par as what we might have thought, with even facing, maybe not a small crisis, but it's certainly not the current crisis as big as, say, the 1918 flu pandemic. So if we were to have something that size, how would we prepare for that. And I think we need to have better solutions in place other than just the ones we currently have, as far as just hiding in your home. We need to look at ways to have just best practices so society continues to run as we like it to, and not be inconvenienced by by pandemics in these different viruses and things of that nature. We need to have practices and contingency planning. That said, everyone, I think, should look at having contingency plannings, just as large corporations do. Everyone should put in place practical contingency planning for things such as food, shelter, emergency funds. I mean, from a financial advisor perspective, most would recommend that you do have good emergency funds. As you see, the black swan events happen more often than not. They happened during the Great Recession, and they're happening now. They happened in 2001. We definitely have these downturns. But back to Google and Alphabet. I still strongly think that they're going to continue to go up. A lot of people say, well, they've been shooting straight up and this is problematic. But until they show the trend to go down, there's no reason we should think they're going to go down if something's still going up. At some point, they will reach a overbought level, and they'll start to move back down or recalibrate. But as of now, they're not doing that. And really what we're seeing is the takeover of the larger firms and larger companies are able to weather the current environment a little bit, obviously a lot better than the smaller scale companies are. So they're not going to be impacted in the same ways. So that's why they'll continue to benefit from the situation at hand. That said, we're probably looking at a lot of negative reports coming out, a lot of bad earnings, most likely through the next year, which will continue to push the overall Main Street economy down, and could in fact continue to push the stock market itself down. Today was a relatively positive day, slightly positive, up everything across the board a little bit, but all in all, we're not looking at a recovery scenario yet. We're just looking at getting into a possible deep recession over the next year. That said, there's always still going to be opportunities, and there's opportunities to short things. There's opportunities to get triple leveraged inverses on the downside, and there's opportunities to buy depreciated stocks, even if they're going to keep going down, buying into the recession if you have the resources to do so, for a longer time horizon when things may get better. And we hope that they will. Most likely they certainly will, with ingenuity, know-how. The world has always pulled out of any type of a crisis in the past, and there's no reason to think it would not continue to do so. But on a short to medium planning standpoint, there's going to be a lot of pain in the process. So therefore, we want to always hedge with things. That said, gold, silver, physical gold, silver is an excellent thing to buy. Most financial advisors recommend it as a hedge, and they would say maybe 5 or 10% of your portfolio, in good times or bad, is a good way to go. I tend to steer away from the actual funds, because if there is a true situation where markets are crashing or markets are possibly even halted, you may not have immediate access to that, and it may not do you as well as the physical gold and silver. That said, there's obviously downsides to that in storage and of the safety of it, maintaining it, and having to physically buy and sell it may or may not be the easiest transaction. I tend to use AppMex. I don't get, this is not a paid endorsement, but it's just one site that I tend to use where the price over spot is very reasonable. So I utilize that because I know a lot of places may charge, especially when resources are more scarce and the supply chain's harder to get. They definitely jack up the over the spot amount. With that said, I think we still have a lot of great things to look forward to in the coming year as we learn to work together and handle these crises in their best way. And what we'll see is we'll see new technologies emerge, we'll see new innovations emerge, because necessity is the mother of invention. So if we continue to do so and work towards that, I think that we'll, in the long run, work towards a better global environment. And it's definitely a lot of things that we can learn through this process about ourselves and about the markets and how things work. So we better prepare for the future. That said, I look forward to giving you a lot of great breaking news into the future, and we're going to have some special guests on as well that I mentioned and alluded to. We'll get to that as we are ramping up some of our equipment and getting things underway here. We'll want to look for a lot of interactive speaking with you, the viewer, as well, and we'll be simulcasting as well across the 6 or 7 platforms we're currently on. So look forward to talking with you again day after day. It's great, so good luck out there.